questions.
Oral questions. Questions. The opposition should be next members of Canada.
This prime minister is weak, and he has lost control. He has lost control of the border, of immigration, and of spending. And now he has lost control of his own party. The Ontario Premier is against these tax hikes.
Dougie boy.
The leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, so is the Liberal Premier of Nova Scotia against these attacks on natural resources. And dozens of Liberal MPs want to fire this Prime Minister. How can he still be hanging on to power? He's lost control. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our caucus is unified when it comes to delivering for Canadians with a tax holiday for all Canadians over the coming months. Although several Conservatives wanted to vote for that tax holiday, but it was blocked by their leader. He's gagging the members of his own caucus and preventing them from representing their constituents here in Ottawa. And instead, he's asking them to represent him in their ridings. That's not how it works, Mr. Speaker. And on this side of the House, we will always stand up for Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister cannot stand up because he's lost control. I've already said that he's lost control of our borders, of immigration.
Everything.
He's lost control of these inflationary deficits that have doubled the national debt, the cost of housing, and the number of people who need to go to food banks. But he promised that he would cap the deficit at $40 billion. Next week, in the economic statement, will the Prime Minister respect that promise? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in due course, we will present the economic statement, and the Conservative Party will likely vote against it, because in it there will be initiatives to help Canadians during this difficult time. There will be investment in economic growth, throughout the country, and yet
you're introducing the fall economic statement.
Doesn't want to do anything that might help
days
Canadians.
Before Christmas.
He prefers to spend all his energy on jostling for his own political interests, which means he's not helping Canadians when they need help. That's why he voted against the tax break and against dental care and against Canadians.
This week, Prime Minister has lost control of everything. He's lost control of the borders, lost control of immigration, lost control of spending, and now has lost control of his cabinet and party. In fact, his foreign minister is now announcing her leadership campaign in the New York Times. The Liberal leader of the province of Ontario has announced she's against his quadrupling carbon tax. The Liberal Premier of Newfoundland is against his job-killing energy cap, and 20 of his MPs want to fire him. How is it that he clings to power when he's lost control?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We can all see that the leader of the opposition has trouble with the ideas that individuals might have different perspectives, and that might be a good thing for a robust political party like the Liberal Party of Canada and all its partners across the country. The leader of the opposition refuses.
What a weirdo.
Or any of his team members have any opinions at all. Indeed, he sanctioned them and wrote a letter in their name decrying their advocacy for their own citizens in their communities when it came to delivering money for mayors for housing from coast to coast to coast. He stands for muzzling his MPs. We stand for diversity.
Yeah, you do. DEI.
The Honourable.
That's how you hire people.
Diversity of opinions, I guess that means the opinion that he should not be Prime Minister. An opinion among Liberals across the country. On the front page of the New York Times, you'd think the Foreign Minister would be fighting Trump's tariffs. Instead, she's fighting for her boss's job. Where she's described in the headline as a possible successor after she sat down for a photo shoot and made the case. This on top of a Liberal leader in Ontario who's against his quadrupling carbon tax, a Liberal Premier in Newfoundland who opposes his job-killing energy cap. Why won't the Prime Minister get the point? His party doesn't want him anymore.
Yeah. Put some W's in the chat, huh?
Prime Minister.
Let's talk Mr. Speaker, about standing up for Canada. One of the things that we've seen throughout our history, when Canada is threatened, when it's challenged with a crisis, when people want ill of Canadians pull together across partisan stripes, across backgrounds, across the country to stand up for our neighbors, to stand up for Canadians. That's certainly what we were able to do as a country 8 years ago. Unfortunately, this basic Canadian attribute seems unavailable to that leader of the opposition who can't help himself on playing politics with Canadians' well-being.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this from a Prime Minister who is helping Donald Trump take away our jobs. You can just imagine the President in the Oval Office calling our businesses to say, hey, I saw that you have a quadrupling carbon tax north of the border. Why not come south of the border where there's no carbon tax and other taxes are falling? How about the latest electricity tax the Prime Minister is bringing in that will drive factories south of the border, or his energy cap that will drive away our resource companies? I understand why President Trump wants to take Canadian jobs, but why is this Prime Minister trying to help him do it?
All right.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Change it up here.
Leader of the opposition, as Canadians increasingly see through his shallow partisan games. If he actually cared about guys helping Canadians and cutting taxes, he wouldn't have voted against taking off the sales tax for Canadians for the next few months. Right. But he wants Canadians to continue to struggle because it benefits him politically, perhaps, instead of actually being there to solve the challenges Canadians are facing. That's why he voted against dental care for seniors. That's why he voted against a school food program. That's why he's voting against a sales tax break for Canadians for the next few months. That's not on, Mr. Speaker.
Trudeau's angry.
Trudeau showed us who they really are. They voted against tax relief for the working class. And the Liberals want to jack up taxes on the 15th. Do Democrats believe the working class needs permanent relief? So will the Prime Minister permanently exempt the GST off of daily essentials like a kid's winter jacket?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're actually moving forward to suspend the sales tax for Canadians so that they can afford the basic necessities that they will need, whether it's fresh-made produce whether it's fresh-made products at
produce.
at
Bro,
grocery,
this guy can't even talk.
Whether it's dinner at a restaurant or even a fast food place for the family, these are things that Canadians will find less expensive over the coming months. Unfortunately, the Conservatives continue to vote against measures that will help Canadians. They stand against this tax break for all Canadians, like they stand against dental care, school food programs, and many other things to help Canadians.
Why were the Conservatives chirping? They proved that bootlickers for billionaires.
Families will still need to eat after February 15th. But the GST will be going back up on February 15th.
Yeah, I don't know if you can call someone a bootlicker in Parliament. Jagmeet just said that at a press conference.
Member from Burnaby South.
Right before QP. They're talking about Maserati.
The Honourable Member from Burnaby South.
Why are these Conservatives chirping so much? They've proven that they are bootlickers for billionaires.
Families will still need to eat after February 15th, but that day, the Prime Minister will once again increase the GST. Just another Liberal letdown. Why does the Prime Minister think that people should have to keep paying GST on children's clothes and diapers? Why?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, our tax break over the next few months will help families throughout the country. It will help them with what they need to buy at the grocery store because groceries, restaurant visits, wine and beer, all sorts of things that we'll be spending on over the next few months, all of these things will be cheaper, tax-free. That's our way of telling Canadians that we see that they're struggling, but we are here to invest and help them. Unlike the Conservatives, who have voted against assistance to Canadians, against the tax break, and against dental care.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims he's taking taxes off of fresh-made produce. He really does think that food comes from the grocery store. From the farmers who actually grow the produce. That's why he thinks he can carbon tax those farmers without taxing the food. And then you have his friend, the Maserati Marxist over there in the
Oh! Maserati Marxist.
You're both out of touch. Canadians are out of money. How about a carbon tax election?
Man. Pierre is just a master at this. Throw some W's in the chat for him. Holy smokes.
Colleagues, order. Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speeder
had the opportunity to axe the sales tax for Canadians.
What's going on with him?
And he voted against it and forced his MPs to do exactly the same. He is only interested in his own political self-interest, not interested in helping Canadians, either with a tax break for the next few months, or with dental care for vulnerable seniors across the country, or with more school food programs that'll help kids and parents afford their groceries. These are the kinds of things we're doing. These are exactly the things that he is blocking.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister says he's going to leave the economy to bankers. He says he doesn't think much about monetary policy, the budgets balance themselves, and that he's not very good with numbers, but he did get one thing right. He said that deficits cause inflation. So did his finance minister right before she introduced his budget, saying no deficit above $40 billion. So, straight up question, will the Prime Minister keep his word and cap the inflationary deficit below $40 billion?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I know the Leader of the Opposition is eager for our fall economic statement. If he really wants to see it, he could perhaps...
Dude, the country's eager.
...obstruction of Parliament to allow us to move forward on dealing with Canadians and challenges that they are facing. But it's interesting that he brought up inflation once again. He stopped talking about inflation after years of railing about it because we did the work to actually bring it down, Mr. Speaker. We invested in programs that were there to support Canadians, but that didn't contribute to inflation. Inflation is now back down in the target range. Interest rates are coming down. That's why we can give a tax break to Canadians. That's why we're there.
I'm going to ask colleagues to please not take the floor unless recognized by the Speaker so that we can both hear and that people who do use translation can hear the answers to the questions.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec National Assembly unanimously adopted a motion to ask the federal government to put an end to the religious exception for hate speech. Now, everyone here has also at one time or another voted for the end of this religious exception. And that makes sense because it is just and necessary to get rid of that exception. Will the Prime Minister move forward now and get rid of this religious exception to incitation to hate and violence? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, if the Bloc Québécois really wanted to do something about incitement to hate crimes, he would be doing something about this conservative filibuster in this House so that we can finally debate the Bloc Québécois bill that he's talking about, so that we can debate our bill for protecting children online. There are a number of measures that we would be happy to debate so that we can help Canadians, so that we can reduce hate speech. But unfortunately, the Bloc Québécois is not putting an end to this conservative filibuster.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
Mais c'était limpide.
The honourable member. Well, that was very clear, Mr. Speaker. But we know that we know that 66% of Canadians and 75% of Quebecers want to put an end to this religious exception. Will the government remove 2 sections of the criminal code? Will the Prime Minister put his money where his mouth is?
Ooh.
Prime Minister.
You put something where his mouth is. Not money.
I would be so happy if we were here in this House discussing these important issues. Too many Canadians are facing hate and discrimination these days. And we want this Parliament to be able to debate the problem and bring forward legislation to fix the problem. But unfortunately, the Conservatives are continuing to block the work of this House, and the Bloc Québécois is not doing anything about it.